This is the Wii Viewer.
The Little Wii Viewer. And the Littlest Wii Viewer.
And we're going to review
The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword for the Wii.
This is the second Zelda game for the Wii, and I think it's the best of the two. What do you guys think?
I would agree with you on there, because Twilight Princess was more dark and moody.
You know, the way I look at Twilight Princess, it was Nintendo's attempt to go dark, and Wind Waker was their attempt to go light. And I think Skyward Sword found that happy middle.
I agree with you. Yep.
Now, I do want to say that we decided to only show footage from the first dungeon, right? But we've gotten much farther, all of us. So if you're wondering why we're only showing footage from the first dungeon, that's why. We don't want to spoil anything. So I'd say you're watching about stuff around the 4 to 5 hour mark, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the graphics. What'd you guys think of them?
I like the way how they shell-shaded the graphics.
This was a pretty nice looking game. I mean, sure, it doesn't look as good as the next-gen games out there, but you know what? Zelda has never been about the graphics. It's about the story and the atmosphere and the feel, but the graphics do help make the experience more immersive. Littlest Viewer, what'd you think of the graphics?
They were great.
The story of this game is that this whole world is above the skies. While on a ride one day, Zelda falls down through the skies, and Link has to retrieve her. Is that basically right? I'm trying to be as generic as possible so I don't give anything away.
Yeah, that's pretty much right.
But then he finds some other obstacles along the way, and maybe Zelda's disappearance has more mystery to it than just her falling from the sky.
Yeah, I would agree with
But
that.
I do have to say something, that Zelda this time around has got to be one of the most bossy. You could tell who wears the pants in that family. Zelda's way or the highway. She is crazy in this one. In the first hour, she tried to murder me twice. It's like she just doesn't care about my life at all. She's like, come on, wuss, just go. Maybe I'm afraid of heights, okay? Maybe I'm afraid of heights.
If you're afraid of heights, why don't you just leave this place?
To where? The whole world is nothing but islands. Zelda is always about the equipment and the items you find in dungeons and how they relate to the world around you. And this time around, they had quite a few new things to get.
For an example, the beetle. It can be used to pilot around and explore new areas you cannot explore normally, and hit switches you cannot reach with anything else.
Yeah, I think we all agree the beetle was the bomb, right?
Yes, including it can carry bombs.
It was beetle-rific.
You could pretty much go anywhere with this beetle, anywhere you want. You could
Within reason. I mean, you can't go throughout the entire level. It will cap you at a certain point.
Yeah, like 15 seconds in, it'll start blinking and then it'll explode.
The equipment was fun, and a lot of them were upgradable, which kind of makes a little side quest that was actually kind of interesting and doable.
And these upgrades, if you think they just, I don't know, do an extra 0.5 damage, they do something completely different. If you upgrade your slingshot, it turns into a spread shot.
There's also multiple kinds of shields and swords, and basically you can mix and match your equipment to your personal adventure type. So if you're the kind of person who likes to have as little as possible to give yourself more of a challenge, well, you can do that. Or you can strap on the best shield and the best sword to just take on the bad guys.
You can even upgrade potions to give you a different advantage. For an example, for a heart potion, instead of just restoring about 8 hearts, it restores all of them. You may be able to upgrade them even further.
I thought the level design on this game was fantastic.
I did too. I like how there's this little area where you have to fill up the water in the dungeon so you can reach the vines. But when you don't see it at first, but once you fill up all the water from both rooms, you get to climb up these vines and they let you progress through the dungeon.
So you thought that was clever?
Yeah, it kind of blended in with the environment and you didn't really see it coming. You might have thought that you had to go through the door in front of you, which was locked.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Well, I thought the first dungeon was like a starter dungeon. I thought the dungeons after them were much more complex and fun.
I do too, because some of the mechanics later in the game are just so cool. I'm not going to get into the details. Let me just tell you, it's in Area 3.
We have to talk about the combat a little bit, because this is way different than any other Zelda game out there. Because of the Wii Motion Plus controls, it does 1-for-1 on the screen, so that means sword fights are actually done using your Wiimote like a sword. It'll replicate what you're doing in your hands to what's on the screen. What did you think of sword fighting in this game?
I thought it was a very nice change in how you use the sword. Motion controls equal very good. I thought that it was a good step up for the game, but seeing how these controls are 1-for-1 with your remote, the enemies, they were programmed so since it's 1-for-1, you try to go for a Waggle Fest, because what you normally do, but the enemies don't like you to do that.
No, they'll block you, and you have to watch their movements to know where and when to slash at them. And I thought that was cool, but it definitely made the game a lot harder than you would expect.
You're not trying to watch their movements, they're kind of watching you, because whenever you try and swing, they block you.
Is there anything you didn't like about the game? Littlest viewer.
Nah, not really. It's pretty much a nice game. I can't think of any bad thing at all.
How about you, little viewer? Can you think of anything that you would have wished was better?
I wish if you locked onto something, you would have more of a focus on it. So like if you're throwing something, like a bomb or something, like...
Oh yeah, the bomb throwing mechanic is just awful, where you toss it and it shows you the angles. It just doesn't work that well.
I wish you could just lock onto it and it would throw it.
Yeah. Well, it does do that occasionally. What I didn't like was, while the side quests were actually a lot more fun in this one, a lot of times I'd forget that I even was on the side quests, because sometimes they would take a little while. And I wish there was a quest log where I can go back and go, oh yeah, that's right, I agreed to do this for this guy. But there isn't, so it gets a little confusing.
The only quest log there really is when you open your save file and they just tell you what you should pick up.
Alright boys, The Legend of Zelda, Skyward Sword. Littlest viewer, would you buy, rent, or skip?
Buy. It was a very fun game. Control was the story, the new equipment that was added, and the upgrades to it too. I think it was a very nice game, and I loved playing it.
Alright, little viewer, would you buy, rent, or skip?
I would not consider this a buy. I would consider this a buy. Buy for your friends, buy for your family, buy for the closest relative you have game. The game has really clever items, gameplay mechanics, gameplay, and not to mention the graphics of this game really stand out. And it was a lot of fun.
Alright, and I would agree with you both. I mean, the game is obviously worth a buy. It's definitely one of the top Zeldas of all time. So this game is absolutely worth a buy.